Good morning, good morning, good morning to all of our listeners from around the world. I want to welcome you to another edition of This Morning with Solivity, broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and of course, I'm glad you're here with us because in addition to me, we're joined by my very special friends, Sheila Applegate and Candice Harper. Good morning to you both.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. We have that down.
Right?
Exactly, right? I hope you guys had a great, restful weekend. For some of us in the United States, it was a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
Did you guys do anything special yesterday at all for President's Day? I mean, Sheila, you and I know the story,
I did a special episode on presidents.
Oh,
but
nice.
what about you, Candy? Did you do anything special yesterday?
I did, but it was all work related. You know how we were talking about when you do your own thing, like
Yeah.
what holiday schmoliday. Yesterday, I did like 2 hypnotherapy clients, just
Wow.
marketing work, things like that. Yeah, but it was all fun stuff. Like, what do they say? When you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
Right.
I love
So
it.
it was
I
a good
love it.
day.
And we
Yeah.
say that right here on Solivity. And thank you for
Right?
watching. Listen, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, listen, we want your comments, your thoughts, your questions, of course. Post them right into our live chat on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll actually do some shout outs to you during the show. Please also let us know where you're listening from. If you're overseas or here in the United States, doesn't matter. Just let us know. Listen, ladies, I was reading this wonderful article in the Washington Post by Dr. Tracy Dennis Taweri that came out in October, and it was called Perfectionist: Lowering Your Standards Can Improve Your Mental Health. And so I thought it would be a great topic for us today.
Mhm.
It reads, there's this one passage that reads, the standards to which perfectionists hold themselves are unrealistic, over demanding, and often impossible to achieve. And when perfectionists fail to achieve perfection, we beat ourselves up with harsh self-criticism and are less able to bounce back and learn from mistakes. We're also unlikely to celebrate our achievements or take pride in improving our personal best. To be a perfectionist, it's all or nothing. You can be a winner or you can be an abject, worthless failure with nothing in between. Woo! Wow,
Yeah.
that's harsh. And the author, Dr. Dennis Taweri, actually, she said she was a perfectionist growing up.
Yeah. So true.
Um, and so my question to both of you is, I mean, this sounds awfully familiar. I mean, I've had
Mhm.
that kind of sentiment not only told to me, but I've witnessed it. Is this something that we as a society put forth as our model for success and working in our lives? Do you think so? Candy, I'll go to you first.
Absolutely. But I think that it's sort of an unconscious be the best, do the best, have more than others. It's sort of built into capitalism in general.
Mhm.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
work with a lot of actually perfectionist is one of the descriptions I use in my ideal client breakdown. Like she's a perfectionist because she came from a family that said you have to excel and exceed.
Mm.
Most of the women that I work with, yesterday I worked with a woman, she's Nigerian, she's a dermatologist and 29 years old and so accomplished and feels worthless because there's this perfectionism uh, paradigm that she has. So I definitely feel like it's built into our culture.
Wow. What about you, Sheila?
I do think it's built into the general culture of capitalism. And then I also think that, there's personal aspects where some of us have that more than others.
Right, right, right.
Definitely.
And I
Yeah.
think I don't know about you two, but working for myself all these years, the perfectionism it's being enforced by myself. I'm not trying to serve someone else, you know, where
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have grown differently had I stayed in the mainstream workforce.
Now that's interesting. Now, where does this come? I mean, where does this kind of come from? Do you have any clues? I mean, I think I definitely got this in part from my parents.
Yeah.
Um, we're we're struggling, recovering perfectionist,
Right.
Um, um, what do you guys think? I mean, do we learn this from our folks?
I mean, I definitely did. I always say, like, when I describe, because I have a book about my relationship with my mother, and, I say, their generation, especially for people of color, it's like, she was growing up in segregationist Washington, D.C.,
Mm,
and in the public school system, it's like her desire to be, uh, accepted and, affluent and coming from such a poor family, and my dad, Texas country boy, just coming from such poverty and having to, like, pull
mhm.
themselves up by their bootstraps so we could have a middle class life. I think that it's just, unconscious. You have to achieve. There's no failure. You're not
Yeah,
allowed because you're gonna suffer. You're gonna be poor. You're gonna, be at the consequence of how other people look down on you if you don't. So I do think it came from them and in a way that was complete. Like, they would never identify it as perfectionism.
right.
They would call it
Right.
survival.
Right, right. Yeah, that's interesting because I was just as you were talking, Candy, that brings in a beautiful dynamic to this, right? Because not all people define it and exhibit it in the same way for the same reasons,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
Some people are
Yeah,
just trying to keep a legacy going of already having privilege and
right,
wealth, and some people are just trying to survive and scratch and, get out of that bucket. They don't care who they're stepping on.
right,
So
right.
it's a definitely a spectrum, right?
Sheila, what do you think about this? I mean,
It's
you know,
interesting because my parents were very accepting and they always pushed us to reach our excellence, but didn't really put a lot of pressure.
mhm,
Um, externally maybe. But I
Mhm.
right.
do know, like, I was the one, I remember I used to clean the house when my mom was out, like, do the chores, but I would go over because I knew if she came home to a clean house, she would feel happier. But no matter
Uh,
what I did, she always first went to the thing I didn't do. And then she'd catch herself and then she'd be, grateful.
right,
But it was
right.
like there was that moment where because it was never good enough for her, it
Mhm.
wasn't good enough when I did it. And I think I carried some of that on as well for sure. And then
Mm.
I moved into a house from the 1800s and no matter how hard you work at cleaning the house, it's never gonna feel
Uh,
It's never gonna
perfect.
right, right,
So
exactly.
I think
It's
I've
just
overcome
built
that
in.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking about like when we make mistakes, how do we react to it? So, Sheila, when you make a mistake, may it be, like we do a lot of editing here on the platform. And let's say you catch a
Mhm.
mistake, after it's kind of gone out, how do you react to that internally?
Right. Well, I have a perfect example of this, not from Solivity, but I am collaborating in a book, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
first draft of our chapter was due this last week. And, I said yes to doing this, telling myself I can just be good or great.
Mhm.
I don't have to be perfect, right? Because I knew I was under a lot of pressure with other things. But still, once I started, I wanted to be perfect. And so I worked really hard and I had other people read it. I made all the changes and I put it in. And as soon as I hit send and saw what it went, I realized that there was a mistake in the second line. And, I just went through this entire rush of body reaction to
Oh,
it.
wow.
Like, oh my gosh. And it
Wow.
really wasn't even that bad. I think that I hit Grammarly and accepted something that I wouldn't have accepted. So it wasn't like it was terrible, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Mm.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Um, but, I did something different this time, so I'll share that with you 'cause I'm proud of myself.
Well,
Because
you
I
go
thought
ahead on.
right?
You
I
go
thought
ahead on.
if I did that mistake, how many other ones are in there? Like, did I send the wrong draft? Like I was just like, what, my head rushed with all of that. But I walked away. I didn't read and look for more mistakes, and I didn't tell anyone, even Zach, who was collaborating with me, because I didn't want to give it more energy than it was. And I finally told him a couple days later. And when it would pop in my head, I would just be like, well, wait and see. It's a first draft. You can fix it, When I finally got it back, she loved the chapter, didn't even notice the mistake, and actually gave me no notes. So,
oh, sweet. There you go.
So, but it didn't matter, right? I mean, I did find mistakes when I went over it myself, but yeah.
It's like, it's awesome. She loved it.
Exactly. Candy, what about you? I mean, when you see something like that, or how do you internalize it?
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself to be a recovering perfectionist, but I still catch myself, getting an awareness that I'm doing it. But,
Right.
when I was younger, especially when I, was a performer, oh my gosh, like it was crushing
Oh my God. Yeah.
perfectionism. And if I made a mistake, and people would tell me, because I would take acting classes and things like that, and they'd always say, if you don't make a big deal, the audience won't even know the difference, right?
Right.
Whether dancing, acting, singing, whatever. And I can remember being young, and I always have this memory of being like maybe 5 or 6 years old. I had to do a poem at our church Christmas thing or whatever, and I made a mistake. And I turned to my mother and I said, "Mom, I messed up." Like in front of the audience. And most of my life growing up, my mom would tell that story in sort of a playful way. But I really took that with me into my young adulthood. And still to this day, even though I am much more aware and can manage it and calm myself down, I still have that panic moment of just like, "Mom, I messed up." Even if it's like what Sheila was talking about, like if I've sent an email or something I've written, or especially if I put something on social media and I didn't say it quite right, or if I misspelled something, like there's still that part of me that there's a little bit of a heart skip. And then I have to talk myself down from it.
Oh my God.
And I want to yell, "Mom, I messed up."
Right.
Somebody
curl
hear
into
me.
a ball, just kind of disappear. Like, okay, where's that ability to kind of like make myself invisible right now?
Right? Just shut everything down, make it stop.
Oh man,
Right?
many times when I was a musician, like that,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh man, yeah. Like I wanted to say, okay, you guys just keep on. I'm just gonna like disappear into the background. I'm just, I'm not even here right now. Oh man, great conversation. Listen, everyone, we want your questions and input. So as we're talking about this today, even when we're on break, let us know. Have you ever been a perfectionist? What was that for you? Because we really want to help you move past it, like we're trying to do. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to do more on perfectionism and our mental health in the next break. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes. See you soon.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Solivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? It isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, we will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices. And together, we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Solivity. I'm joined by Sheila and Candice. We're talking about an unhealthy dose of perfectionism, why it's important for us to know about when we're exhibiting this. And I want to start our next segment off with another quick passage from the Washington Post article I read earlier. They said, research is unequivocal. There is little upside to perfectionism. The relentless pursuit of flawlessness can lead to low self-worth, depressive and anxiety orders, high stress in the face of failure, and even suicide. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, so this is no joke for y'all. I mean, I think that there's many stories of people who go into rough seas trying to obtain perfection at all cost.
Yeah.
Candy, I wanted to ask you about a specific aspect of this. We kind of alluded to it earlier with like our parents and that kind of thing. But also like in our romantic relationships. How does this kind of manifest itself with your clients, like people trying to be perfect in
Yeah.
relationships?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that a perfectionist is one of my ideal client descriptions. So I work with so many women who are crushed by this. And, the way that it shows up and the reason that it's so unworkable is because, there's two emotions that we really feel that are sort of the umbrella emotions. It's either fear or love, right?
Mm,
Everything we say we feel is under one of those categories, fear
right.
or love. Think
Mhm.
about perfectionism, it's all under fear.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
so when we're fearful, to be able to open up enough to have intimate connection and to be vulnerable enough and authentic enough because you have accepted yourself, it's just not a perfectionist's wheelhouse, basically.
Mhm.
Like the
Right. Right.
willingness to get out of the practice of um being so self-critical that you are stopped by how you view yourself makes it
Mhm.
almost impossible to have an intimate connection with another person.
Wow.
You have to put on a face. And so what I deal with my clients is that, loving understanding of how to parent yourself out of needing to be perfect in order to think you're worthy of love. That you're
Wow.
worthy of love as soon as you know that it's okay that you're not perfect. You're
Wow.
worthy of love no matter what, right? But your
Mhm.
awareness of it becomes when you realize you don't have to be perfect.
Mm, mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm. What say you, Sheila?
Well, I agree with Candy, of course. And I feel like when we're feeling that need for perfectionism, especially in relationships, we can't
Mhm.
have intimacy,
Mm,
So
Yeah.
even if you've moved past the I'm so, dedicated to perfectionism that I can't attract a relationship, but when you're in a relationship, if you can't show your vulnerability, you're not actually showing up in it. And
yeah.
vulnerability is where, lack of perfection is.
Right. 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 I'm reading again. This is such a fabulous article. I'm going to make sure I post the link in our our chat. She talks a little bit about this specific aspect. She says women may be particularly vulnerable to the slippery slope of perfectionism from childhood and beyond. We work to become little Miss Perfect. How many times have you heard that? Often we succeed and are pointedly praised for our outstanding achievements, from grades to good looks, from sweet manners to being a killer on the volleyball court, and later in the boardroom. But these achievements quickly go from being outstanding to the mere status quo. the bar for success is continually raised. It's almost like, you know, you hear Janet Jackson in the background saying, "What have you done for me lately?" You know, this pressure, right? I mean, because that's what we're talking about, right? I mean, Candy, I mean, I love the way that you put it around there's fear or love, right?
Mm,
And our
yeah.
fear of you know, of not being able to be loved. And so we have to put forth this face and put all this pressure on ourselves and then undoubtedly, Sheila, to your point, that puts up a wall.
Yeah.
You
It does.
can't
We
you,
also forget that it puts up a wall and that how we're experiencing the relationship also influences how our partner's experiencing it. So if we never get to reach the bar, we certainly can't offer that to a partner. And if you've ever been in any kind of partnership, even a
right,
work partnership with someone who never lets you hit the bar, they just
right,
keep
Right.
raising it no matter what you do,
right,
you
right,
know, you can see how crushing and ineffective that is
right,
for
right.
sustainability. Yeah.
You
So
know, yeah, go ahead, Sheila.
last night I was watching Harlem, and it
Mm.
really the
Oh,
episode
we're
I was
coming to
watching.
your house, Sheila. You've been
Right.
watching some great stuff.
That's a great show.
But I don't know but Camille in that episode I was watching realized she was holding back, like when difficult things came up,
Uh-huh.
she wasn't telling her partner Ian, because she felt like she had to figure it out on her own
Mm.
before going to him. And I just think that that's an aspect of perfectionism that
Yep.
we have. And she realized well, I don't want to give everyone the episode, but there was a something from her childhood that she was able to look back at and be aware of. But it just feels like, yeah, if we're trying to be perfect, we can't actually partner with each other. Like we
Yeah.
we can't talk. We don't open room to be supported.
And
Absolutely.
what you're pointing to too, Sheila, is that, perfectionism also is what sort of fuels the lone wolf syndrome. And that's another
Right.
thing that's so detrimental
Mm,
to relationships. Like, if I try to go off and figure out the issue myself, I am not in partnership. I am not in relationship. And that's what we often do. Like, oh, this thing's not working out. I don't like what my partner's doing. So let me go run off and figure it out and then come up with the solution and then fix it on my own.
right.
And then there's no relationship in that.
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about that old adjective of or additive of, you know, being evenly yoked. And I think people mistake that for being both people have to be, you know, equally strong and all this kind of stuff. And it's not at all. It's when two oxen are pulling a plow, they're not pulling at the same time, or even at
Mm.
sprint sometimes. One is leading and the other one's kind of resting. And so it allows for both people to be vulnerable, both
Yeah.
people to be not perfect, where we fail, and that the other person says, "Hey, I got you. You know, don't worry
Right.
about that. Keep moving forward." So listen, we're going to continue this conversation, but we're going to make a quick turn into how does this really look like in a relationship where people are empowered, right? Is it perfectionism or is it something else? So we'll be right back in 2 minutes to let you know. Hey there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Solivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Solivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free.
Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Solivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life.
And welcome back to This Morning with Soulivity. This is Brian Johnson. I'm joined by my beautiful co-hosts, Sheila Applegate and Candice Harper. And we're talking about perfectionism. Now, I wanted to kind of turn again, and we're going to turn toward what is a potential more healthy alternative from the Washington Post article that I was reading by Dr. Terari. She says, excellentism, a term coined by Patrick Gerdeau, a professor of psychology at the University of Ottawa, involves setting high standards but not beating yourself up when you don't meet them. And excellentist is open to new experiences, takes unique approaches to problem solving, and is okay with getting it wrong, as long as they learn from their mistakes to strive toward excellent achievement. Now that sounds hot. That's springtime right there. You know, what do you guys think? What do you think about like moving from being perfect to being excellent?
I think it's an excellent idea.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. You know, I think what Dr. Tracy, I'm just gonna call her Dr. Tracy. I hope you don't mind, Dr. Tracy. What she's basically telling us to do by the Dr. Patrick and the University of Ottawa is, listen, there's a piece missing here. You can set high standards for yourself, but it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
It's okay to, in fact, failure is the best lesson. You know,
you know what? I agree with that. And I think sometimes the reason why we struggle with just, okay, let me decide it's okay to fail after practicing perfectionism is because the distinction needs to be made between perfectionism and excellence. So I think the distinction is self-alignment, right? So perfectionism is usually performative, and it's fueled by the approval of others. That's why we rarely hit the bar or let ourselves hit the bar when we're being perfectionistic, because we need someone to be like, yes, you hit the bar, right? But not even realizing that even if they did that, we wouldn't take the satisfaction from it.
right.
But that's what we're working towards. When we're motivated by excellence and self-aligned, we can allow failure and mistakes. We can release the need to have it be what someone else would approve of, because it's really just about being fully self-expressed, right? It's no longer fueled by the approval of others. It's just the willingness to practice how I express myself and practice what feels good, what feels right, what, moves through me in a way that makes me feel good because I feel good, not because I'm meeting someone else's standard.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I really do. Sheila, what about you?
Yeah, I like that. And then as you're talking, I'm thinking it's also more being present in the moment, because perfection is something we're always reaching for, and
Yeah.
in the human level actually can't be, attained, because there's always some more perfection to get.
Right.
Yeah.
But excellence allows me to be in the moment, to do the best I can in each moment, to appreciate others' excellence, because I think perfection can also lead to judgment, because if we're judging ourselves, it leaks out into others. So yeah, I feel the sense of just evolving in excellence.
Yeah.
You know, the absolute perfect, and so I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege. The absolute perfect movie that came on yesterday that talks about being a perfectionist and moving into being excellent is The Last Jedi. So this is the second. This is the second to the last of the series for Star Wars, where Luke, as a Jedi Master, having failed teaching Ben Solo, who now becomes Kylo Ren. He's dealing with him having failed, and so Yoda shows up and says, "Of course you failed. That's the biggest teacher." And that you have to pass on what you learned, both the good and the failures.
Yeah.
That's the best thing that you can pass on. So when you fail, you pass that on. Like, hey, listen, I failed and it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was like, wow, Yoda, go Yoda. You'll take school.
That also makes me think of, it's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the only story we tell, every hero's journey has to be followed by failure for the next episode or the next movie or the next story.
Right.
So it's like this cycle that's always repeating itself, where we could step out of that by just going for excellence and not the hero, like just enjoying the moments and the growth.
And practicing. I feel like practice, like, I don't think we allow ourselves enough practice of things.
Agreed.
It's almost like we come out of the womb and there's this expectation that we're just going to already excel at certain things, or already do things a perfect way. Or, when people, let's say like Stevie Wonder, who's like a musical genius, like we have this expectation that that's how it needs to be when we're perfectionistic. It has to be that I'm automatically good at something. When for the most part, everything that everyone does well, there's a level of willingness to practice, willingness to fail, willingness to, keep building on, what does and doesn't work, and be okay with both, like love all of it. Right.
I love that, we have to master what we're trying to put forth in the world. I mean, even Stevie Wonder, you listen to the music that he created when he was younger, which was wonderful. But now the music that he's created in his later years is even more iconic, right?
Yeah.
Because he grew into being more of himself and more of what he wanted to be. What you were talking about, being in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we make a turn toward giving some people some loving tips on what does that look like in their lives, right? How do you strive for excellence and not perfection? And so we'll take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk more about this, because I think this is a great topic. I think everybody kind of exhibits at least every once in a while, and that there's kind of struggling with. So we're going to be back in about 2 minutes, everybody. See you soon.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Solivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? It isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, we will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices. And together, we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Solivity. We're talking about perfection versus being excellent. And so we want to give people a few tips on what does that look like in your life. And from our Washington Post article, the first tip that she gives people is pick one upcoming activity that you tend to get perfectionistic about. It could be both personal or work related, or it might be about your appearance. For me, it's hosting. I feel deep down that if I'm not Martha Stewart perfect, it's a fail. Wow.
That's a high bar to set.
Right. She goes on to say, make a list of what looks perfect to you. For my hosting perfectionism, perfect is an impeccable clean house. And then she goes on to say some other stuff. And she says, look at the list and pick something that you will allow to be less perfect. Perhaps it's just one thing, perhaps it's several, but pick something that you can really let go of. And then she says, observe what happens, right? Let it, kind of feel it through, and then ask questions, how did it turn out? How did you feel? How do others feel? She said, when I started cooking with my guests instead of for them, it made my gatherings more successful. Everyone, including me, had more fun. Wow, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What are some ways that, maybe Candy, maybe some tips on like in relationships that would be good for people to know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the first thing is recognition, right? So it takes even a lot of self-awareness to be able to say, I know I'm a perfectionist, or I know that
Yeah.
I'm perfectionistic, right?
Right.
And I think the first thing to do, if you're listening to this conversation, or when you hear that word, if it does sort of, if the ears prick up, I would say think about times where you feel like you're up against a wall because you need something to happen, right? And specifically in a relationship because it involves another person. But when it's causing you contention, stress, anxiety, anger, sadness, you just need this thing to happen. That's usually the perfectionist that's kicking in. That's usually the conditionality.
Right.
And I think that once you can get to a point where you can recognize that that is what's happening, I'm a coach, so I have a coach, and she always tells me, don't identify yourself as something, just acknowledge that you're experiencing something, right? Acknowledge, I am
Ooh-wee.
now experiencing perfectionism,
Yes. Yes.
right? If you allow
Yes.
yourself to take a moment and do that and take a breath, then it becomes something that you don't have to take on. It also frees you up for other possibilities. So within this moment of experiencing perfectionism, I could also choose patience. I could also choose communicative. I could also choose, and it might be a little harder because I'm not used to doing that. It's a practice. But every moment that we allow ourselves to do that, we start to strengthen that muscle of choosing something different. So I think it starts with awareness.
Sheila, you teach people how to manifest the good in their lives. And I know that this has to be part of the process and that journey, right? You talked about this hero's journey. What are some of the things that you tell your clients?
Well, I'm thinking about that childlike wonder that we need to keep in our lives at all times.
Yeah.
And if you look at what children do, young children, they're learning so much more than we do in a day, right? How to walk, how to talk, how to eat, and all these things that they're learning. And yeah, they might get frustrated and have a little temper tantrum, but for the most part, they're not expecting themselves to be adults in that moment, right? They're just on the task at hand, getting the best they can. So I think when we give ourselves that same childlike wonder and freedom, life becomes more happy. happy, right? It just is more joyful because we can learn, we can explore, we can be upset, and then we can move on and try again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking offline before we started the show about my own hero's journey, which included a near-death experience where I literally had to ask myself, or spirit came in and said, "Are you ready to leave?" And when I said yes, I'm not, I'm ready. I'm not ready to leave. I'm ready to stay here. I understood internally that what that meant was I had to change. I had to change how how I'm relating to the world. I had to change my behaviors that created this situation. And part of that was trying to be perfect, trying to be all things to all people at all times, and not saying no, right? And so, you know, one thing that was really helpful for me, and it's a combination of what both of you guys are saying, and that is I started journaling. And part of that journaling process, along with support, right? Because I had plenty of support from friends and the minister of the church that I went to, who's really, really great. That I had to learn that we are more than our emotions. We're more than that. That, because we're fearful or have anxiety or whatever, that doesn't define who we are. Right.
Yeah.
That's more about the what. The what is based in this realm, the physical, the car, the house, the job, what we think are things that define the who. The who is just spirit and just our soul. And so we're a lot more than that. And when I started journaling about those experiences, I started to detach from the who from the what. And then I was able to kind of manage this, because I think that I just want to let people know, listen, being a perfectionist was taught to you when you were a little kid. That's not going away. Right. But what you can do is you can create a new normal for yourself, where now you have a choice. You can choose either to be a perfectionist or not, be excellent or be perfect. And so over time you learn how to be excellent and be more of that more of the time. And then don't beat yourself up if you kind of dive down into being a perfectionist.
Right, because that's perfectionistic.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Man, this was a great topic. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I love what you said, because
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you talked about the soul, our soul, we are perfect souls. We came to earth to be imperfect. That's why we came to experience this.
Yeah.
So let's just have fun doing it.
Right?
Heck yes. I love it. Have fun in the summertime.
Right.
See, I'm having fun right now, y'all. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. And we'll be back with some more of This Morning with Solivity with my beautiful host here. We'll be right back, everybody.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Solivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. Wow, what a great show today. I want to thank both of you for your beautiful and wonderful thoughts on how to move out of being a perfectionist into being an excellentist, which is more healthy, right? Because I think we're adding on that aspect of, listen, we are spiritual beings living a human experience. In this human experience, we fail, we miss the mark. um my old minister Howard Caesar and in fact I need to have him on, you guys would love him, who talked about the true meaning of sin, right? So in the Bible, we talk about sin. You can't sin, da 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 da. Well, that interpretation is actually being a perfectionist, right? Sin is an archery term, and when you pull the arrow back with your bow and you shoot, if you miss the target, that's called a sin, right? And so it's okay. How if you've never picked up a bow and arrow before, guess what's going to happen? You're going to sin a lot, right? You're going to miss the mark a lot. So it's okay. It's okay. Candy, I wanted to ask you one last question on this, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on. Sure. In our relationships, it's probably very important that we first build into our lives this aspect where it's okay to fail, but also that we attract into our lives people that support us in failing, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing though. If we're looking for that, we're in resistance around it. So if we're looking for signs that someone will support us in failing, you know, you're almost in resistance of that, because you're saying to the universe, you know, resistance of, or I'm sorry, acceptance of failing,
right?
Like,
right.
setting yourself up for
Right.
the failure, right? I
Right.
think that what it is if you're looking, or even if you're already in a relationship, it's what am I generating within myself? Because my relationship with that other person is just a mirror for my relationship with myself. Right? So as soon as I start to give myself grace, which is also a way to begin to release perfectionism, and am a loving, nurturing self-parent, and loving and nurturing within myself, then that's what I will tend to attract in other people. And a partner can only mirror how I treat myself, right? Or how I
Love it.
talk to myself, how I be. So yeah, it's internal. It's always an internal job, even with another person, especially with another person.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Any final thoughts from you, Sheila?
I think you just nailed it, Candy. You know? I'm good with that.
The greatest of all time.
I'm in excellent company. You know how they say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
I'm in the right room. So
you know, see, goats can hang out with each other, you know. Listen, I want to let everybody know about some things that are coming up. We got another great Consciously Awesome Living with Sheila coming up on tomorrow, which is Wednesday at 12 noon. On Thursday, we have another great The Steps to Happiness show with Teresa Greco on Thursday. If you missed yesterday's Tammy Talks, she had a former football player, Billy Taylor, where they were talking about sports and how you can learn and be resilient, which was great. So you can go to all these things by going to our YouTube page, which reminds me, why don't you follow us on social media? We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. You can learn more about the shows that are coming up, as well as special events. Also, please feel free to go to our This Morning website at soulivity.com/This Morning with Solivity. Or you can check out the QR code, which I'm going to be posting up just in a second, that gives you more information where you can sign up for our mailing list, which gives you access to exclusive content. Ooh.
I like that.
What's going on really quickly with you guys? I know, Candy, you've got some really cool things happening at CandiceHarperLoveCoach.com.
Yeah, so I have my one-on-one intensive, my coaching intensive. So I help women of color and also women of culture. And I want to define that word in this context. Women who are very influenced by their heritage. Because I recently had a conversation with someone that when I say women of culture, it sounds like I'm being elitist, but it's actually very inclusive. So, women who have been influenced by their communities, their culture, their family, and that is affecting their love life. And I work with professional women who are leaders, and I have an intensive called Love Life Skills for Leaders. So if you want to create a love life that loves you back, work with me. It's a 12-week intensive. And, as always, there's a promo. If you're listening to this on Solivity 50, if you email me, Candice at CandiceHarperLoveCoach.com, you get a complimentary consultation. And if we work together, you get 50% off of the fee for working with me.
Bam.
Yeah.
Bam. I love it. I love it. Sheila, what's going on with you?
Well, this coming weekend, we have Fractal Illumination Gathering, which you can learn about at SheilaApplegate.com. That's an energy upgrade that you receive, not healing, but activation and upgrade. And then also I work with people both individually and group, and my soul connection sessions, you get a discount through Solivity. So check that out. We can help you connect with your soul and live life from that soul space.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I think with that being said, we're going to say goodbye and see you next time. Listen, on behalf of all of us, seriously, we want to thank you for joining us for another episode of This Morning with Solivity. We hope that you come back and join us at 8 o'clock Eastern every day for our live broadcast, or you can watch replays, specifically Thursdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific time on KMET 1490 AM for all of you out on the West Coast. Until next time, keep on having real conversations with passion and purpose and create that best life today. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.